Hi all, Leanne here from healthfulpursuit.com, and you are watching the Keto Diet Podcast. Today marks the very first of hopefully many videos that we're going to be doing sharing the Keto Diet Podcast with you. This is episode 280, where we are squashing keto myths for actual weight loss. Our guest today is Jes Ernst. She's a registered dietitian nutritionist specializing in using food as medicine with a ketogenic diet for children and adults with various medical conditions. She's a certified specialist in pediatric nutrition and educates children with epilepsy on the ketogenic diet as an anti-seizure medication. Jes also manages a private nutrition practice consulting adults on the ketogenic way of eating by analyzing and specifically individualizing the diet to provide client-centered nutrition care. She is passionate about learning how whole foods can nourish and heal the body. Jes received her bachelor's degree in dietetics from the Ohio State University and her master's in nutrition sciences from the University of Cincinnati. You can find more by connecting with Jes on her website at theketoRD.com. So today we're chatting all about the differences between medical and health-based nutritional ketosis, intuitive children, fat quality, quantity, and variety, and how to really customize the fats that you're eating for success on your ketogenic diet, benefits from one-on-one support, what to look for in a keto nutritionist if you are looking for one-on-one support, shifting keto for the long term when it relates to weight loss that stays off, taking ownership of your health, calories on keto. This is one of my personal favorite topics. So before we get to our interview today, I want to introduce you to our two sponsors of the Keto Diet Podcast on today's episode. The first is Perfect Keto. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know how much I love Perfect Keto. You guys can grab 20% off all things Perfect Keto. I personally love their keto bars. They're so delicious and not full of a bunch of gunky ingredients. You can go to perfectketo.com/KDP for 20% off. You can also use the coupon code KDP for your 20% off. And when you order over $80 in your cart, you get a free nut butter. So that's a total win. Our second partner today is ButcherBox. They deliver meat to your door. So if you are busy or you don't want to go to the grocery store or you just ain't got time for that, this is a great service. It's a subscription-based service. So you just load up all the things that you really like. They deliver to your home. You can find out more by going to butcherbox.com/keto diet. What I love about ButcherBox is that they commit to high quality meats. Imagine that. So thank you to our two sponsors for making today possible. And if you have any questions or anything about today's podcast, you can head on over to healthfulpursuit.com/contact. I'll include the link in the corners and also down below, and any of the resources or support items that we mentioned in today's episode, you can also find down below. So without further ado, let's get to this video interview. Hello, Jes. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm so good. Oh my gosh, your smile, for those watching the video, you are just like full of so much energy. I've already enjoyed talking to you for a little bit here.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. I know you got to have some positive energy during these times, right?
Oh, so true. Amen to that. I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I have been a dietitian for the past 10 years. I got my undergrad at The Ohio State University and my graduate degree from University of Cincinnati. So I reside in Ohio. I am currently a pediatric dietitian, specializing in ketogenic diet, working with children who have epilepsy. So that's my primary background, but recently I have really started delving into working with adults and teaching and guiding people who have aspirations for weight loss or other disease states that they need help kind of taking control of their life and losing some weight or just overall getting healthy by using the ketogenic diet. So it's pretty exciting.
And as I was saying before we press record, you're a rare breed to see like the medical side of the ketogenic diet and then
go to the opposite side, which is like the health and wellness industry. So I'm so excited to have a conversation with you of how this dance goes in your professional life.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. There's a very wide variety of different avenues you can go with this. So I'm excited to chat about it.
So I guess maybe the question on everyone's mind is, what is the difference between the medical ketogenic diet and the health and wellness kind of, I'm going to call it health and wellness, like the ketogenic diet that most listeners know?
Yeah. So the ketogenic diet has actually been around for hundreds of years, dating all the way back to like 500 BC. And it was actually fell out of use for using it for epilepsy when all of the anti-epileptic medications came into play in the mid 1900s. Specifically because it's obviously much easier to pop a pill than it is to completely change your diet. However, in the 1990s, the ketogenic diet really came back full force, specifically with the emergence of the Charlie Foundation, which is an amazing resource for anybody, specifically those with epilepsy, or if you need more information about medical ketogenic diet therapies. The Charlie Foundation is an excellent resource to go to. And so in the 1990s, it kind of came back into a resurgence, and we started really using the ketogenic diet and using food as medicine versus using all of these different pills to treat seizures. So the difference between the medical ketogenic diet, which is what we use for children and young adults, and now even older adults with epilepsy, is that everything is weighed and measured in a specific ratio. So it's the ratio of the grams of fat to the grams of carbohydrate and protein combined. So everything that these children and young adults eat is weighed and measured on a gram scale, specifically to what their body needs to help control their epilepsy. So the difference between that and then obviously what we're using the ketogenic diet for general overall health and wellness is that, like you and I are not, weighing everything on a gram scale and being very specific with our macronutrients. We're maybe using like an app, or we're writing down in a food journal, or we're just kind of eyeballing our fat and our protein and our carbohydrates to have a general healthy lifestyle. And then also our goal is more of weight loss, versus for our children, obviously our goal is almost never weight loss. Our goal is more to help control their seizures. So it's a little bit different, but both are really amazing. And I'm so glad that the ketogenic diet is getting so much publicity and so many people are interested in learning more, because it's a really, really crazy and amazing way to use food to treat and heal the body.
You're probably one of the only dietitians I've ever heard that says, I just love the ketogenic diet.
That's probably true. Yeah. There's several of us like that. We, in school, to become a dietitian, you have to become a registered dietitian, you have to get a 4-year degree, and then you have to go through a very intense internship process. And then many of us also are required to get our master's degree. And obviously we have been taught for all of these years that, the food pyramid or my plate, that, carbohydrates should be 55 to 60% of your total calories per day, and fat should be 30%. And, you want to make sure you're getting 8 to 11 servings of whole grains per day. And so the ketogenic diet is just almost like flipping that food pyramid right over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interested how our thoughts have shifted over the years. And honestly, if you look back, Time magazine have had many like front page covers about how originally, if you see, it was an egg with bacon and it was like a frown face. And then a few years later, now it's like butter. It's like this swirly butter, and it's so exciting. It's like butter and fat is good for you. So it's just amazing how things have evolved over the years.
Yeah, coming from the 90s where we use margarine all of the time to now be here where I'm like, how much more coconut oil can I add to this meal?
Yep.
It's such a difference. And I know that there are parents listening, and I've always wanted to ask this question and just haven't had a chance. So I'm totally going to go for it. So children with epilepsy, would they have the same experience with ketogenic diet as a child would going on the ketogenic diet, or is it completely different? Because like, I just want to, do you know what I'm trying to ask? Like, are
Yeah.
there similarities? Because I know a lot of parents want to encourage their kids to eat more of a ketogenic diet, but then their doctor says they're going to lose a lot of weight, they're not going to gain muscle, they're not going to grow. Is it different for epileptic kids? Is that a silly question?
No, that's a great question. So for children who are doing the ketogenic diet as a um, medical use for treating their epilepsy, they work with me very, very closely. So I am constantly monitoring their weight, their height, their muscle mass, their head circumference, making sure all their electrolytes are within balance, all their vitamin levels, making sure they're getting appropriate supplementation. So they are working with a dietitian extremely closely. Now, I also have had from my other colleagues, they have asked me to that they've had parents that have children that are maybe a little bit over on the overweight side, or parents who follow a ketogenic diet therapy for themselves for weight loss or overall healthy eating. And they ask me to kind of consult and chat with these families. So the difference is that, children are always constantly growing. So if, we want to make sure that they're getting appropriate nutrition and well-balanced nutrition. However, there's a lot, usually when I have conversations with these families, there's a lot of the processed foods that are in their diet. So sometimes that's really all we need to make adjustments on, is kind of getting rid of some of those processed carbohydrates, focusing more on the complex carbohydrates, and maybe not dropping their carbs all the way down, or even giving them any sort of a carbohydrate allotment whatsoever, because we want to teach good healthy behaviors around food for children as well. But eliminating some of those processed foods, focusing more on the really strong complex carbs, and then introducing also nice healthy fats as well, and having a good variety of those kind of fats. So if the parents are doing this strict ketogenic diet where they're keeping their carbs less than 20, I don't usually recommend that unless there's a medical need, or if they're followed very, very closely by a dietitian for children.
Such a great answer. Literally, I've been wondering this for 7 years. Thank you so much. It's been on my mind for a really long time. And one of my friends said a really great thing the other day. And I know a lot of parents can get really overwhelmed with, they're eating a ketogenic diet. They're starting to learn what carbohydrates do in the body, what sugar is doing. And a lot of them get very overwhelmed and stressed out, like this kid is out and they're making their own choices, and how do I control it? And what my girlfriend said was like, I make the choices that I have the power over. So when I'm making them dinner, I'm going to choose solid choices and educate them on what's maybe good for them, what food does in their body. But when they're out in the world, I have no control if they're going to say yes to the whatever snacks kids eat. Clearly I'm not
Right.
a
Yeah.
mother, but yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the big thing, is education, and education early with these kids, to teach them how to read food labels and understand what certain ingredients are as well that are in the foods that they're putting into their body. Because one of the big things about keto is that makes it really nice and whole is that you're not eating a lot of processed foods. You're not a lot of the ingredients in the foods are very, you can pronounce almost all of them. However, there are a lot of new keto foods that are on the market now. Some are really, really good, and some are really, really not good. So learning the difference also in between, if you're going to go for those convenience like keto food options too, like learning and understanding what sugar alcohols are, and what some of these ingredients that they're adding to these foods are, so that children, as they're growing older, can also understand how to read a food label and how to make choices, so that when they are out, not saying that they would be compulsively checking or anything, because we don't want to encourage those kind of behaviors, but making sure that they understand what they're putting in their body, so that we don't get into a situation when they're older, when all of a sudden they're coming to me and they're 50 years old and they've never looked at a food label.
Yeah, and just even checking in, and you ask the child, like, how are you feeling? How did that meal make you feel? I love watching some of my friends just ask their kids things to do with food, and you can see their little brains moving of like, oh, you know what? I have a pain in my belly. Oh, what do you think that is from? And just having this conversation is like, oh, I wish I had that as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so it would really help us be able to guide what we should, what modifications in their diet that we should make versus always just throwing on a pill or, thinking of a different medication that we should try to kind of treat their symptoms, but really being mindful and understanding how your body feels when you eat certain things.
Exactly. And so, kind of flipping back to the medical versus health and wellness space, um, where do you see the medical space kind of coming into the health and wellness space? Because sometimes people say certain things about their ketogenic diet. I'm like, I think you're being a little too hardcore with this. I don't think you need to be this strict. But where do you see that pull,
Yeah,
if at
that's
all?
yeah, it's really hard because the medical ketogenic diet has just, I mean, grown. Like we are now using it for Alzheimer's, for brain tumors, for traumatic brain injury, for autism. I mean, we are thinking about ketogenic diet therapies for so many um new disease states that we didn't before. The research is just every day there's something new, which is just absolutely amazing. But it just kind of depends, and that's why like what you need as an adult. Like, do you need to be limiting your carbohydrates to less than 20 grams per day? Are you working with a registered dietitian, which I think is so important because I can help you determine, create your macronutrient goals to what you need based on where you're going, and making sure that you're also getting your adequate supplementation, making sure your electrolytes in your labs are looking good, making sure your lipid panel, your cholesterol and triglycerides, making sure we're choosing the right kinds of fats. We're not just doing like a bacon, butter, and beef kind of meal because, that can obviously have detrimental effects as well. You may lose a lot of weight, but we may have other issues. So I think that the two worlds are really combining a lot. But I just see the future and the promise for ketogenic therapies is just incredible. And I think we have so far to go, and we have so many avenues to bring this diet into the health and wellness field that it's just incredible. And it's really amazing because 10 years ago, people didn't know what I meant when I said I was a ketogenic dietitian. But now if I say keto, they don't even let me say the whole word. And they're like, okay, so I've heard about this. How do you want to talk about it? Can I ask you questions? What about this and this and this? And it's pretty amazing how many people kind of know about it now.
Yeah, and it really feels, I know for myself, like almost every day I wake up, I'm like, we're at the forefront of this huge movement that's shifting people's lives and being able, I know for you, being able to work with your clients one-on-one and going to the hospital and seeing these people's lives being changed. When I go to book signing events and there are hundreds of people with these beautiful stories of how their life has shifted because of this, it's just like, it just gets you so excited, doesn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, and it's really been cool because, a lot of the neurologists that I work with used to always kind of think of the ketogenic diet kind of as the last resort when it came to their epilepsy treatment. But now parents and families and even neurologists and epileptologists are bringing this to the table earlier to think about changing the way that the diet can help heal these children much earlier than just throwing on all these different medications trying to cure their seizures. So it's pretty miraculous. I love it. It's awesome.
That's so amazing that it's starting to be recommended sooner rather than later. Could you
Mhm.
imagine if, oh,
I know.
like just
It's
all
pretty
the
cool.
possibilities, like beyond
There's so many.
epilepsy.
Oh, there's so many possibilities. It's just incredible. And the scientists and the researchers and the physicians, I mean, everyone is just doing such great work. It's really incredible.
And so you mentioned a little bit before the right kind of fats. Can you delve into that a little bit more? I'm guessing there's also a quality piece to this. Can you tell us a bit more about your approach
Yeah.
on this?
Yeah. So one of my, my big things is that I want, obviously this is a very, very high fat diet, and especially for children who are using it for epilepsy. I mean, they can have up to 90% of their total calories coming from fat, which most adults probably wouldn't be able to do. But I tell you, these children are rock stars, and the parents are rock stars. It's really quite amazing. But I always want to make sure that we are getting a variety of different types of fats into the diet. So saturated fats, not bad, good for you, different type of fat. However, if you're only eating animal fats all the time, that's usually when I see a spike in the triglycerides or cholesterol. And so I really will dive into their food recall or their app that they're tracking all their food on, so I can determine how to provide some education on the different types of fats. So I always want to make sure that there's polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats, making sure that there are different types of nice healthy oils like olive oils and avocado oil, making sure that there's seeds and nuts, healthy fatty fish, omega-3 fats in the diet, making sure that it's not just butter and mayonnaise and beef and bacon, because we want to make sure we're doing some of those like plant-based fats that are very, very healthy. And incorporating those into the diet as well. So I really do pay really close attention to kind of the whole picture versus just like, are you hitting your macronutrients? Because you could hit your macronutrients by just eating saturated fats all day long. But for overall health, because if we're doing this long term, we really need to make sure that we are getting a good, nice variety in the diet.
Yeah, what I heard is variety, guys. Variety, variety, variety. And that can be very overwhelming. I know that when people are interested in trying a new eating style, you go to the grocery store and you have a list of all these things you want to buy, and you go to the checkout till and it's like $400, and you're like, this is the most expensive diet ever.
Yeah, you're like, what am I going to do?
What am I going to do? So my recommendation is always like choose a fat and get very comfortable with it. Like when you're brand new, like choose like avocado oil and coconut oil and give that a try. And when you're out, go to butter and olive oil. And when you're out, and just like every time you go, you get something else and you get comfortable with using that. Like I know that
that's a great idea.
Yeah, when I started being introduced to coconut oil, I'm like, what is this stuff? It's like solid and then soft, and how do I use this? And it just takes time, and it can be very overwhelming if you go to the store and you're like, I'll get ghee and I'll get butter and I'll get avocado oil and macadamia nut oil. And you're just like, what do I do with all these? How do I use it? It can get expensive and very overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the way that you said that too, is really kind of honing in on specific parts of the diet that you feel comfortable making a change at first. And then like, it doesn't have to be like all of a sudden tomorrow you're at 20 grams of carbohydrates and you're at your 160 grams of fat and you're doing it perfectly. I mean, think about how long that it's taken many of these adults who are looking to lose weight to put on this weight. It's going to take time to really research. And I think that's the other thing, is that because keto has gotten so big, there's so much information out there and there's so many recipes, which is amazing, because I'll tell you what, when I first started 10 years ago, we had like a few websites and that's all I could give. Now I have Pinterest pages and I have websites, and I thank all of the people who have made all of those, because I'm not the best cook, and I appreciate everyone giving me all these ideas. And, the parents come to me and they will bring me all these new products and all these, things that I'm only one person. I can't keep up with all of it. So it's really amazing. So yeah, just really keep just focusing in on a part that you feel comfortable changing, and then building on that is really important, so that you don't feel like, oh, I didn't get to this amount, I failed, I'm done, I'm out, I can't do this, it's too expensive. So, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And with more information, though it is like amazing to have access to all this, I find with more information comes more confusion, because there's so many voices, and because eating is a very individual approach, but people market it as like, I did this one thing, and if you do this thing, you're going to have success too. Do you find that in your one-on-one clients, like your adults, that they're like all over the place with all these ideas?
Yes, all the time. And I think, again, I can't stress it enough how important it is to work with a dietitian when you're getting ready to start, so that we can really work one-on-one to figure out what your goals and what your needs are, and not do comparison syndrome. Because I know, going on Instagram or Facebook, although they're amazing outlets and great social media to get ideas and that kind of stuff, it also can get very overwhelming. You're like, well, why did I only lose 1 pound this week? Those people told me they lost 10 pounds in a week. What am I doing wrong? How is this, how am I doing this different? How can I have those results? So, really, really working with a dietitian to figure out each person's specific needs is very important.
Also, with working one-on-one, it helps you stay in your own lane. It's like having a coach that's like, no, this is our plan. We have a plan. We're going to keep going. And you know that you have a plan and you're staying in your lane, because when you look over at those other people, you're like, yeah, but what about over here? And it's like, you don't know where they are in their process, what's going on, where they're at in their menstrual cycle, what's happening with
Right.
their hormones. Like, there's so much at play.
Oh my gosh, there's so much, especially for the women.
Oh,
The
right?
women, I totally agree. I mean, the women are amazing, amazing. I mean, my women will do everything that I tell them to do. They're so good. But yeah, just trying not to compare and just figuring out what's going to work best for your body. And sometimes keto isn't the best thing for some of these women. I mean, in coming to that fact that it's like, this kind of lifestyle, although it is very healthy, but sometimes we need to do a different approach to it, or we need to modify it, or we need to make some kind of change to make it best for their body and their goals and their lifestyle. So, and that's not a bad thing. It's like amazing trying to figure out what your body needs to be successful. So
Yeah, there's really a layer of pride in there too. Like when I was using the ketogenic diet to overcome amenorrhea, it had been 8 years since I had had a period. And I went on keto specifically to get my hormones back online. And then there came a point where at the time I had bulimia. And so I was binging and purging because I couldn't keep within my macros, and I was so stressed out about it. And it was a total pride thing, because I just was really craving carbohydrates. And the minute I just started increasing my carbohydrates, I was actually able to maintain a good amount of keto, like just a little bit of fat burning. And after doing that for 9 months, I got my period back. But had I stayed in that space of like, no, this is what keto is, it's 20 grams of carbs forever, you're welcome, end of story, not listening, it ends up not benefiting you to the benefits that you want. Would you agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree, because literally everyone is so different and everyone responds to this differently. So you have to find out what works best for you. And sometimes that takes time, obviously, especially when we're thinking about using the ketogenic diet for weight loss, everyone wants these immediate results. We want to lose it fast, and we want everyone to see these results, and we want to see an outcome for what we're doing. But I try to really give realistic short-term and long-term goals that I work with my clients one-on-one to develop, that are realistic, so that there aren't these obsessive thoughts, and and just getting like overwhelmed with trying to be perfect, because there really is no perfect until you figure out what works best for you. So I completely agree with you.
That deserves to be on a t-shirt. There
I
really
know.
is no perfect until you find out what works best for you. Dang, girl.
Oh, okay. You can take that. Just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
If I had the time, energy, and money to create quote images for my podcast, that would be on today's episode. But your girl doesn't have any of those things.
I love that. I don't need her, but if I did, I would do it too.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we were just touching on, and my next question was going to be, do you think keto's for everybody? And so you kind of answered that. Do you think ketones are required for success?
No, I really don't. Because, okay, so let me tell you another thing. So a lot of my clients obviously will come to me, and and I'm talking specifically adults, specifically for weight loss, and they want to do keto. Well, so what I usually do when I start out is I kind of want to see, where am I starting here? And for some of my, my men that are in their 50s and 60s, and they are eating 400, 500 grams of carbohydrates per day, I am not lying to you. Like, and then this is what they've been doing for their whole life. So what I usually do is I focus definitely on changing the type of carbohydrates and the amount of carbohydrates that they're coming in. So even cutting it by like 50% to start. And then we get down to maybe 100. And then maybe we'll start up at 50, and that's where we can go. And I believe in obviously the fat burning. I believe that ketones, the beta hydroxybutyrate that you're checking on your home meter, or the acetoacetate that you're checking with your urine ketones, is very important, but I don't think it's necessary for weight loss, because sometimes it's just this lower carbohydrate or changing the type of carbohydrates that a lot of people can have really good success. However, if we just cut carbs and we don't change anything else, you're obviously going to be into a calorie deficit, because you're going to be eating significantly less calories than what you were before. So you'll see this weight loss, but then at some point you're going to kind of hit that set point, and you're going to kind of hang out around. And then that's when I start talking about obviously increasing the fat. We were always doing fat to begin with, but if we're just doing low carb, you're probably going to be pretty hangry because you're not getting the calories that you're used to. So then adding in those nice healthy fats, making fat bombs, or adding in like your coconut, avocado oil, different types of like nuts and seeds, and different types of fish and things like that into the diet to kind of get, because this is not a calorie restricted diet. That's not the premise of it. It's just changing the type of calories. So I don't focus a lot on calories. I focus more on the types. So making sure that the macronutrients are in line, and that they feel good and they feel healthy. I've had several clients who are like, I can't do that amount of fat that you're telling me to do. That's like, I'm having extreme diarrhea, or I am so constipated that like my life is ruined. Like, I can't do this. So, we make adjustments along the way because everyone's different. So, and sometimes like the Mediterranean diet is something that works best for, them, and that's what they need. And so there's just a lot of different modifications, because everybody needs something different.
Yeah, I always, I think I learned this in nutrition school, or maybe I came up with it. I'm gonna take ownership of this. I thought, just like we all look different on the outside, we're gonna work a little bit differently on the inside. And like realizing that and truly understanding that made me very excited to be a nutrition educator, but also like, how am I supposed to figure all this out? And that's why it's so fun to have clients that are like willing to do the work, and it makes our job so fun, because then we get to just guide them, and they fill in the blanks.
Right, exactly. And most people don't need a lot of hand holding. They just need, I'm more of like a cheerleader over here. I'm like, here, I'll look at your amazing app that you've logged everything, and I'll give you some kudos, and you guys are doing well. And then whenever there's an issue, or we hit a plateau, or we need some kind of modification, I make sure that everything is smooth sailing, and then help them kind of work through some of those bumpy parts. But I like that, because I want my clients to take ownership of their life, because I'm not always obviously going to be there. And so this is something that's, for many of them, it's a lifestyle change. It's not a diet. It is not a diet. It definitely is something that they're going to have to work on for probably their whole life. So making it a habit and just learning about food is super, super important.
Yes, completely. I love the way that you said that. And I feel like there is a seeking for ketones, and people get so wrapped up in the number. I mean, it's one of the only eating styles that I know of that you can prick your finger or grab a little machine and it says, you're a success or you're a total failure, like thumbs down. And so I think people get so wrapped up in the numbers of it all, specifically seeking ketones. And I have a blood glucose monitor, a continuous glucose monitor rather, installed, and I've had it for a couple of weeks now. And I've found it so fascinating to go on the opposite side of the whole ketone chasing and just be very curious as to what glucose is doing and how that works.
It's pretty amazing. So where are you landing?
I think this is great. It's definitely helped me keep tabs on myself, because every time I eat, I'm like, ooh, I don't know, this is probably going to do something to my glucose. I've been playing around with a lot of different things, like what would happen if I had carbs in the morning versus carbs at night. I find that I react very minimally to carbs at night, and I sleep better, and my glucose is way, way better than if I wake up, do something, and then eat carbs. Medjool dates do nothing to me. That has been, oh,
That's awesome.
that is awesome. Same with chickpeas. Like chickpeas, I can eat. It's no big deal. I feel great. And I love chickpeas. Like I am obsessed with chickpeas, and just having this monitor with me, I don't think I could wear it forever and ever and ever, and thankful that I don't need to. But just like the little things of like, if I have a black coffee after a meal that I know is going to spike up, and I have that coffee with it, I don't spike up as much. And, all these little things has been really helpful to just understanding my body more, I would say.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that even if you didn't have that, the big thing to learn is that you're learning about your body, and you're learning about how you react to certain foods.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of us don't pay attention to, is how what happens in your body with certain different types of foods, because everyone is different. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, the bio-individuality is so important. And I've been sharing my process on Instagram, and people are like, well, how come you're eating dates on your ketogenic diet? It's not allowed. And it's this whole thing, and it creates so much confusion, because we're told forever that if you just follow this specific protocol, that everything will work out and it's so perfect for you. And that's just not true. And whoever says that, run away. Do not give them your money.
Right. Exactly. No, it's so true. It really is. It's so individualized. So yeah, that's great that you're learning so much about that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. Those little tools that you can bring in and learn more about yourself, I'm all for. You mentioned a little bit before on calories. Now, oh my gosh, we have had oodles of guests on the show that have varying opinions on calories. It sounds like even with your weight loss program, like with your weight loss clients, you're not going to reduce calories. Can you just tell us what your stance is on calories a little bit clearer?
So, okay. So not necessary. So I feel like calories are almost automatically reduced. There almost always is a calorie deficit. Now, I'm not telling people that they should keep with their 3,000 calorie diet, just change to be, 60% fat, because that's just like not realistic. So most people, when they're doing this diet, it's, getting the 160 to 180 grams of fat, and then your 20 to 50 grams of carbohydrates, and then making sure, depending on what you need, getting like 0.8 grams per kilo of protein or something, moderate protein, automatically brings your calories down. But I don't really like if we have a stall, I don't always pay attention necessarily to the calories. I pay attention more to the types of calories. So I want to make sure that the majority of their calories are obviously coming from fat, and then moderate protein and low carbohydrate. And I know that, the energy expenditure and all of that is a big hot topic in the health and wellness world. And I think it confuses a lot of people because so many people have varying opinions. But again, some people are like, I know that my body does not need more than 1,500 calories. Well, then I say, you do you, then let's do our macronutrients based on that amount. Some people are like, I'm starving and I can't do this, I need more calories. So then we, obviously I'll tell them that we probably are not getting enough fat in, which is why our calorie level is low. So it just kind of depends on what each person needs. And I know that there are a lot of people who have very different opinions on it, but that's just my personal stance on it. I don't pay tons of attention to it.
Yeah, I don't either, but I always find it really fascinating to have people on and have conversations and learn the way that they approach things. And like we were saying, it's so bio-individual that they have clients because it works for them and they're trying them out and all the things. So that's what I love about nutrition, that there's so many different approaches that it's very rare that you won't find somebody that can help you because we
Right.
all do
Yeah.
it a little different.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And, and there are, like you were talking about, those people are like, what? You're not doing 20 grams of carbs. You're not doing it correctly. Or you're eating dates like the keto police. They're not my friends, but, everybody needs something different. So don't ever let those people, guide you. You listen to your body and you do what you need to do.
Yeah, and sidetrack. That's a big thing of like, oh, well, if this person's doing this, I better change it. And it's like, if what you're doing is working, stay. Like just keep
Right.
on keeping on. Don't get distracted.
Right. Absolutely. And if you need to make an adjustment, then we make an adjustment. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Amazing, Jess. Okay, where can listeners find out more from you, connect with you, all the things?
Yeah. So you can visit my website. So it's Jes, Jes, the ketord.com, or you could visit me on Instagram. If anybody wants to teach me more about Instagram coolness, that would be awesome too. My Instagram handle is Jes, Jes, the ketord.
Awesome. I'm going to include all those links in the show notes today. And if you find somebody who's Instagram cool and can teach you stuff, I will happily join that class too. I'm so not Instagram cool.
I'm not either. I wish. There's so many people. You guys are awesome.
That's so true. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Jess. This was a blast hanging out with you.
Oh, I appreciate you inviting me so much. And good luck to everyone out there. You guys are doing great. Proud of everyone.